Welcome to another podcast of Reviving the American Family. My name's Zach.
I'm April.
Today we're going to be talking about the weapon policy that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has for its members and anyone that comes to the church. So right now, we have a policy since 2019 that says there's no lethal weapons that can be on church premises. And in light of, I really wanted to discuss this because it's a policy that I think is ridiculous and I think should be changed, especially in the light of what happened at Grand Blanc, Michigan. And I didn't want to talk about this right off the bat, because I wanted to give the church a little bit of time, hopefully, to change that policy. I was hoping that a change could happen, but I haven't seen anything, so I think it's fair to talk about it. And what we see right now, or what we've seen with what happened in Michigan, is some crazy lunatic drove his truck into one of the churches, got out of his truck, armed to the teeth, opens fire, and, kills 4 people, injures a whole lot more, burns the place to the ground. And there wasn't one shot fired by a member of the church to be able to protect themselves and their families. So I think it's time to relook at this to see if the policy is really what it should be in this day and age. Right now, basically, our policy is run, hide, fight. Like, you can find that actually on the LDS church website. So run if you can, which I agree. Most of the members of the church should be getting the heck out of there. If someone comes in with by the way, I have to say pew pew because YouTube doesn't like the other word.
Yeah, they'll bury you.
Yeah. So no one has a pew pew, so everybody's got to run. There's a mass herd of people running out, which there's a lot of targets on, there's a lot of targets that you can shoot at that point. So if you look at what other churches, most churches actually allow lethal weapons. And I've watched a whole bunch of security people that do security for churches or for businesses talk about our policy, and it's all negative. There's no one saying,
So you've watched other people talk about our specific policy?
Yes, other people that aren't members of the church.
Okay. That aren't members of the church.
Aren't members of our church, and they're security people for other churches, and not one of them says it's a good policy.
Oh, it's a horrible policy.
It's all basically everybody sitting ducks how they have it. And the run, hide, fight is great, especially if it's a school and it's a big school and there's a lot of different exits. The churches really aren't that big. There's a big sacrament room with a whole lot of people. Sometimes, if it's a small ward, it's like 50, 60, 70. If it's a bigger ward, you got 200 plus. And it's a whole lot of targets. And if nobody has a way to protect themselves, that's a huge issue. So right now, it's run, hide like in a room, lock yourself in, put something against the door. Unfortunately, a lot of the church windows, especially if it's an older church, I don't know about the newer, we have an older one, the windows don't open up.
Yeah, they just kind of pop out with a lever.
Yeah.
You get like that much space.
Yeah, you couldn't squeeze out. I mean,
No.
you could maybe
I could
throw
throw
a
a kid
little
out.
kid out or something, but an adult could not squeeze out of it for sure. And then the next thing is fight. But what do you fight with? Staplers. That is actually part of, if you watch one of our trainings, they'll say pick up whatever you can, even staplers. So I guess I got to run to the library, check out a stapler. You got to check it out.
Well,
Proper
it's
policy.
a hefty stapler. It's from like the 1970s.
It's not a plastic
So
stapler.
it could do some damage if you have a good.
If you got the spirit of David and you're able to whip that around and throw it really hard, yeah, you could. You
should carry a stapler on your belt every Sunday.
Yeah, and there's only probably a couple staplers, by the way, that are in the church.
We have a hefty stapler here at the house you can take.
And then you got hymn books, and literally, what else? But what I'd rather do is make sure kind of our voice gets heard. I'm a big believer that information precedes inspiration and revelation. So I know I'm not going to change this policy, but I hope the information gets out. I know a lot. I haven't talked to anyone that says, Zach, this weapons policy is a great policy. Everybody says the same thing. It's ridiculous. They don't feel as safe. It should be changed. Everybody that I've talked to. Now, I'm sure we'll get some comments below that someone tries to justify why. Yeah. So I think it's something that needs to be looked at. And so how our process should be, right? Our process should be, we should tell our local leadership, that could be elders quorum, relief society president. They take it up to the bishop of the stake president to general authorities to the apostles, and and the prophet. And I'm not saying little me is going to be making this change, but I feel like some people feel like, hey, I can't really voice my opinion in church because this is the doctrine, this is the policy. And doctrine's doctrine, yes, that's going to stay the same. But policy changes all the time, and it changes with the era that we're in, concerns that we have. And right now, honestly, I feel like this policy was made by lawyers trying to protect maybe the church from legal liability, but it doesn't necessarily protect the members. It needs to be re-looked at, redone, and hopefully they just allow any member to be able to protect themselves. Right now, the policy, I believe what it says, if you're retired or if you're an active police officer or if you're a retired or active military person, you can bring, you're the ones that maybe the exceptions for. But I think that's ridiculous.
What if your ward doesn't have one of those?
If it doesn't have one of those.
We
and
don't.
There's a lot of people. Look, there's 3 to 400 million pews in the United States. And that's just the United States.
Yeah, and a lot of those people who own those pews are very accurate in their aim.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're
trained, they hunt, they go to the shooting range and do those types of things. So just the policy needs to be looked at. And I know that some people say, Zach, there's always someone that you don't really want to have one of those. If it's a nut job, they're going to bring it anyway. The policy's not going to change that.
Yeah.
If you have a member of your church that maybe is a bad apple in the group, having a policy saying you can't bring a pew isn't going to stop him from bringing it.
They're going to think twice about doing something stupid if they know that there's other people armed.
Yes.
In that facility.
Yep. So, again, and then there's other people. I've talked to other people that say, Zach, I agree with you, but you've never really had to take a life, so you don't know. Now, it's never our military guys that say that. It's always like, it's some hippity dippity guy that, thinks that. And I will say, I probably would. Most people, I think, would have some type of like, maybe mental health, maybe some PTSD if they had to do that. Maybe some guys would have that. I don't think that would be me, but maybe some guys would. And if that's the case, that's a cross that you should be able to carry to be able to protect members of your church and your family. I have 4 daughters, and I'd feel a lot worse. My mental health would be a lot worse if I lost my wife or my kids. So,
especially if your choice was taken from you to defend them.
Absolutely.
I would be blaming some other people.
It would be hard not to go there.
Yeah.
It would be hard not to go there. And I hope that's, not where people go. I think there is, you have to know when that situation occurs, and it should be blatantly obvious. And there's probably some people that might think a threat that's not a lethal threat is a lethal threat. So you do have to have some common sense. Again, going back, even if you look at like the story of the anti-Nephi Lehi, again, for those, if you're not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ, you can look it up. If you are, then you'll understand this reference. Even they, after being slaughtered so many times, were about to pick up their weapons of war, and their sons came through and they said, we didn't make this promise. We'll go to war on your behalf. So, again, there is no war that we're talking about. This is just individual circumstances, but it's circumstances that I want my daughters, my wife, and myself to feel safe. And if I need to use a pew or a weapon, a lethal weapon to protect them.
Not a stapler, a weapon.
Yeah.
Not considered a weapon. I wouldn't consider a stapler a weapon.
No, that's not a weapon. That's a stapler. A hymn book is for singing songs.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to discuss. Love to hear your comments. Again, I think it's important, if you agree with this, talk to your local leadership. I'm not saying make a huge deal and ruffle a whole bunch of feathers, but talk to them. It should be their responsibility to bring that up and just, let other leadership know that, hey, I'm getting this feedback, and they can do with it what they should do with it. I let my local leadership know, and it's his responsibility to take it from there.
Well, other churches are allowing carry too, like other faiths.
I don't know any other Christian denominations that say you can't. And maybe there is. Love to hear about what your church is saying. But please like, comment, subscribe. These are things that we want to talk about, and this is interesting to me. And if there is a good reason, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear the good reasons. I haven't heard a good reason yet to not have the opportunity to be able to protect myself with and my family with a weapon that can actually do the job. So that's our podcast for today. Again, please like, subscribe, comment below. Love to hear your comments. All right, guys, take care. Have a good day.